Okay, so we all have our coping mechanisms for this moment, or we're developing them at least. And I've kind of settled into wanting to know more about what's happening, and most importantly, what can be done to stop it. And I invite you to join me in this, because the more our eyes are wide open and the more we stop ourselves from looking away and just talking about just how terrible it is, the better we understand what the levers of power are that can push back on illegal and unconstitutional actions of the Trump administration. The more we know, the more we're prepared to call it out and call on people in power or people aspiring to be in power to do more, to push harder, to be more creative. Because what's happening right now is a hostile takeover of the U.S. government. There's no other way to describe it. It's happening clearly across our justice system, where just a few hours ago, a deadline passed for FBI employees to fill out a questionnaire detailing their involvement in January 6 cases. In other words, they were asked to fill out basically a loyalty test. That comes after an unprecedented purge of the FBI on Friday night, when the Trump administration forced out top FBI career officials, multiple FBI field office leaders, and a number of DOJ prosecutors who worked on January 6th cases. Tonight, I'm going to talk to one of the prosecutors who was fired on Friday. His name is Jake Strubing. He was back at the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. this morning, where he was escorted to his office to pick up his things, drop off his computer, his phone, and his credentials. This is going to be his first interview since he was fired. He has a lot to say, and he's going to be at this table with me in just a moment. But of course, as you all know, it's not just law enforcement where there is a hostile takeover of the government. And it's not a takeover at the hand of Trump alone. This takeover is also happening at the direction of his unelected best friend, Elon Musk. His latest target was the United States Agency for International Development. And that agency is the one that not only leads on humanitarian assistance around the world, but also works to combat corruption and foreign aid programs. It's a big part of what they do. I kind of see how that could make Elon Musk a bit uncomfortable. So what do you think he did? You may already know. Well, he removed two of the top leaders of the organization who wouldn't do his bidding over the weekend. And then overnight, last night, employees received an email ordering them not to come into the office today. They weren't given a reason or any sort of rationale. They were basically just told not to show up. Many were even blocked from the system and locked out of their email accounts. We're also seeing something similar happening in the Treasury Department. In the last few days, Elon Musk and his Doge pals have been granted access to the federal payment system that handles paychecks to federal workers, Social Security checks, tax refunds, and basically incredibly sensitive personal information about anyone who gets those payments. This takeover is also happening across the Office of Personnel Management, where Musk has gained unprecedented access to federal human resources databases that house sensitive personal information about millions of federal employees. And I'm going to talk with the reporter who broke that story today about what else he's learned later in the show. Now, I'm going to just be straight with you about all this. In the face of all of this and much more that's happened the last 2 weeks, there's not always been the type of clear, consistent, and united response from leading Democrats that I believe, and you probably believe, the moment requires. Yes, there have been some powerful voices out there in the confirmation hearings especially, but overall, it's taken far too long, in my view, for elected officials to respond boldly. And when they do respond, those responses aren't often specific enough or bold enough. And it just hasn't been super clear all the time to me or to probably all of you what they are actually doing to push back on this hostile takeover. And that's a problem. But the good news is we have started to see some signs of life. Today, Democratic Senator Brian Schatz said he would place a blanket hold on all of Trump's State Department nominees until his administration's attack on USAID ends. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries announced that Democrats will introduce legislation to, quote, prevent unlawful access to that federal payment system that I just mentioned. Congressman Jerry Connolly, the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, is asking Chairman James Comer to invite Elon Musk to the committee's hearing on right-sizing government this Wednesday. And congressional Democrats held a fiery press conference today outside of the USAID building right here in Washington, D.C.
We are going to fight in every way we can, in the courts, in public opinion, with the bully pulpit, in the halls of Congress, and here at AID itself.
This is all a smokescreen, a shell game. in order to turn this government over to a handful of unelected billionaires and corporate interests, and we are not going to let them do that.
Just like Elon Musk did not create USAID, he doesn't have the power to destroy it. And who's going to stop him? We are. We're going to stop him.
Okay, that's the fire. That's the life I'm talking about. Now, after that press conference, members even tried to get inside the shuttered USAID building, and I'm going to talk to one of ththose members, Senator Chris Van Hollen, in just a few minutes. So we're seeing some signs of life. There needs to be more, but they're trying. That's some encouraging news, some much-needed encouraging news. And we're seeing this not just among elected officials or politicians, but among unelected people, people who have spent their careers serving the public and have now found themselves caught in the crosshairs of this hostile takeover, trying to stand up for what's right. At USAID, yes, Elon Musk pushed the director of security and his deputy out, but not before they tried to stop Musk people from gaining access to restricted spaces at the agency. At the Treasury Department, a career civil servant was pushed out because he refused to give Musk's team access to that federal payment system that they eventually bullied their way into. And at the FBI, acting FBI Director Brian Driscoll refused a Justice Department order that he assist in the firing of agents involved in January 6 cases, reportedly pushing back so forcefully that some FBI officials feared that he would be dismissed. One FBI agent summarized what happened like this. Bottom line, DOJ came over and wanted to fire a bunch of J6 agents. Driscoll is an absolute stud, held his ground, and told White House proxy DOJ to F off. It's pretty bold. And look, when you're fighting against the president of the United States and his billionaire sidekick with vengeance, you are fighting an uphill battle. Let's be real. But they're still fighting. They're still standing up for what's right, even if it means putting their own jobs at jeopardy. And that is important because at the end of the day, what these past weeks have made clear is that this takeover is going to proceed unchecked unless there are efforts to check it. In other words, there's no cavalry coming. You are the cavalry. Elected officials, governors, civil servants, all of you sitting at home, you are the cavalry to stop this. And we will be here, right here, to talk about what's happening. Where bolder action and voices are needed, we will call that out. We will keep our eyes open, we won't look away, and we will continue to shine a light on the people standing up for what is